You're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair Larson and Ranking Member Graves, all the members of the subcommittee and others who are here. And thank you to my dear friend, Julia Brownlee, Congress member. My mother should have been there for that introduction. It was so kind. And I am really pleased to be joined today in my testimony by Salita Reynolds, who is the general manager of the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. You know, we have the second largest metropolitan economy in the country and now the third largest metropolitan economy in the world in Southern California. Home to the nation's busiest cargo complex. We boast the third busiest passenger airport in the world, one of those 6 that was mentioned. But as you know, we're also a creative capital, an innovation capital, and the manufacturing capital of America. Our success is tied to America's strength, and America's success is tied to our strength. But LA also occupies another role, which is why it's such a treat to testify before you. We've become the transportation infrastructure investment capital of America, pouring $14 billion, the most of any airport in America, into LAX, which if you've been through in the last decade, you know needs it. Investing $120 billion, you heard that right, for 15 new public transit lines in preparation for the American Summer Games that will come to Los Angeles in 2028, part of the largest local transportation measure ever passed in American history ×2. And so we're trying to drive the future of transportation locally through investment and beyond as a testing ground for America's new innovation in transportation. And thanks to that history, geography, and ingenuity that Representative Brownlee mentioned, representatives and companies from everywhere are coming to Southern California to develop, to test, to build new transportation solutions. And that includes advanced aerial mobility, or AAM. For this technology, the sky is literally the limit, and it has the potential to reduce emissions, to connect communities, and to grow our economies. But as policymakers, I know that this hearing today is about our responsibility to step back, to assess the challenges, and to keep our focus on equity as this market takes off. We need to make sure that AAM doesn't create flyover highways accessible only to those with the economic means, but how we can explore AAM, estimated to travel between 50 and 200 miles an hour, between 50 and 200 miles at more than 150 miles an hour, could tie people to jobs and opportunity without creating more sprawl. We know that well in Los Angeles, where the traffic is among the worst in the country, and our air quality traditionally has been too, even though we've made huge strides. In the LA region, only a quarter of jobs are accessible within 90 minutes to people using public transit. AAM could offer a solution, but only if we build affordability, both into the private and public sector planning around this technology. So it needs to be safe, zero emissions, and low noise. We'll meet that standard, industry experts say, and be safer and cleaner than driving a car and quieter than a helicopter. And while there's no shortage of room in the air for AAM, there are far fewer spots available for takeoff and landing. So as we build out the infrastructure, we don't need to just think about the sky, but the buildings and the vertiports, and connect density and better connections to walking, cycling, and transit where those vertiports are. LA is already engaging Angelenos in our plans for AAM infrastructure because we want the public to be the co-authors of this. I'm proud that LA and our sister cities are leading on AAM, but we need your help at the federal level. Don't let us have 1,000 standards in 1,000 cities. Let's develop a national standard. Clear roles for managing low altitude airspace that recognize the responsibility, though, of local governments around land use, density, and development. 2, the FAA needs to prioritize research into safely integrating AAM into congested airspace, as well as research into how takeoffs and landings will weave into the flight paths of traditional commercial aircraft operations. 3, industry, the FAA, and local governments have to start sharing data on the safety, sustainability, equity, noise, and energy infrastructure impacts of AAM with one another, as well as members of the public, academic partners, and others. And 4, the FAA needs to speed up the pace of its data gathering and invest more resources in reliable communications, detect and avoid systems, and remote identification systems. And airports like LAX should be allowed to conduct pilot programs to test these types of systems. Last, we need funding to plan for and connect AAM infrastructure into our existing and future transportation networks. At its core, infrastructure isn't about a single mode of transportation. It's about innovation and jobs and human beings. It's about connecting communities. Whether it's AAM or encouraging more Americans to walk, ride, or take public transit, we have the tools to forge the next generation of transportation. LA, with cities around the world, is trying to develop this standard when it comes to AAM, and we simply need your partnership to arrive at that destination together. Thank you all so much. I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti.